ভিতরে হ্যাঁ আমি একদম এসি ঠান্ডা শীতল রাইট ও মাই গড কেন কেন হ্যাপি না কি হয়েছে দেখো এই গাছটা শাহবাজ এই গাছটা দেখো কিরকম আমি রাবা কই ওই দেখ এখানে অনেক এক্সাইটমেন্ট শাহবাজ
I should talk about these too.
Okay.
It's at 2:30 though, so it's starting now.
Oh, okay. Hello.
It is real?
Yep, it's
Oh
real.
my god, this is real.
Is there any turtle under it?
No, there's no turtle.
No body inside.
There's no body.
Just the shell.
It's the shell and the head.
Where did you find it?
This one I don't know. Sometimes they just expire and we find them on the beach.
The area, this area?
Yep, this area.
Oh my god.
This is where they grow up.
Can you see the underneath?
Oh my gosh.
This is the shell.
Is this the spine
This is the
bone?
spine. This is the spine.
Yeah.
Backbone.
Is that the spinal cord?
Yeah, the spinal. No cord inside, but just the shell. This is the spine. You see, underneath this shell, they have the big body, and this is their. You'll see their face over here coming up.
I hate.
Oh my
I don't know if you're interested, but there's going to be a careful.
Shaba's careful, they're broken.
You have to be very careful. There's a ranger talk right now over there.
Ranger what?
Is it 2:30?
Ranger what?
Talk.
Ranger talk. Okay, they will talk about like all the history and.
Yeah.
Okay, 2:30.
Barrier
What time
Islands,
is it?
Is it 2:30?
Is it 2:30? What?
Maybe.
2:35. Oh, then
Yeah, you walk over there and go take a look.
let's go.
Let's go.
I'm 5 minutes.
Yeah. And this is the
Head.
head for these also. This is the head of this.
Yeah. It's out for a tour.
Oh my god.
Let's go. Let's go.
It's very big, na Shaba's?
তুমি যে দাঁড়া ছিল যেখানে সেখানে তো
A turtle cell can be that big.
Yeah, we'll
Shall we
come-
turn it
we'll-
again?
we'll come back inside.
Thank you.
This way you already loving it.
শাহবাজ বাবা ওর কানে দেখো তো কি হয়েছে এটা লাল কালারের হ্যাঁ এই কানের লেফট সাইডের কানে
দেখি কি ব্যথা পাচ্ছি মনে হয়
Just the itch.
ইচ হয়েছে এখানে চুলটা ব্যথা পাচ্ছি এখন এখানে টপ এখানে হিস্ট্রি নিয়ে কথা বলবো লাইট হাউস কি এখানে টপ দিয়েছি somebody তুমি দেখো এই আসছে
এখানে এখানে কথা হবে এখানে কথা হবে মনে হয় না
তুমি কথা ওর জিজ্ঞাসা বলে And you have plans to do it?
I do. I have time to do it. Yeah.
Yes, so good.
That's the lighthouse?
Here's the lighthouse.
Yes, it is. It's the tallest in North America.
Wow, this is the tallest one.
You're here. You're at it.
This is the tallest lighthouse in North America.
Really? I pinky promise. The tallest one, though, is in Poland. Isn't that weird?
The tallest lighthouse in the world is in Poland. This one is the tallest in North America.
Where's
It
Poland?
is in Europe, you know that.
Right.
Well, welcome in. My name is Anne Marie. I'm a ranger here at Hatteras Seashore. And I will be giving you a program all about the dangerous history of the Outer Banks. We've had some deadly things happening off of our coast for quite quite a few hundred years now. The talk should take about 20 minutes, and if at any moment you need to get up and leave, please do so. I'm here for you, you're not here for me, so it won't hurt my feelings one bit. Before we truly get into the grit of it though, I'm going to give you a little safety talk, because you can never be too safe, especially out here. The seashore, out of all 400 park sites, is actually number 2 in the amount of drownings across national park sites. That's
This is the Outer Banks?
This is the Outer Banks. Yep, we're in the middle of the ocean right now. Well, when you go swimming in the ocean, the number 1 threat are rip currents. If it wasn't for this picture right here, actually, I probably wouldn't be standing in front of you. When I was about 12, I was leaving my hotel room, and this was a magnet on the refrigerator. It's actually more specifically that sign right over there with the bullet points. And I remember reading the first bullet point, which says, "Don't fight the current." I prefer to sum it up as float instead of fight. When you're swimming and you get caught in a rip current, it can be really hard to try and fight the current back to the shore, and that's what makes people get tired and then they drown. But luckily I saw that, and I remember getting caught. I couldn't swim, I couldn't breathe, sand was swirling in front of my face, and my head was under the water. But when I remembered that bullet point, I relaxed, I stayed calm, and whoop, I floated to the surface. And by floating to the surface, it let me see the beach, which the next important step is you can swim parallel to the seashore to escape the current. I did just that, ran to the lifeguard, and he pulled everyone from the water. He then told me how rip currents form, actually. Basically, underneath my very feet, the sand collapsed and it created a funnel underneath the water, allowing all of the breaking waves to get sucked back out into the ocean. Rip currents usually last about 100 feet, which is from me to the parking lot behind you there. They can last up to 400 feet, which feels like miles when you're in the water. The good thing about that though means that they end. So if it's too powerful to even swim sideways out of, if you just keep floating, eventually you'll float right out of the rip current. If you see anyone else stuck in a rip current while you're on the beach, call 911. We don't need 2 people caught in a rip current, and most deaths occur when people are trying to rescue someone else. Instead, while you're waiting for the Coast Guard to arrive, send them out a flotation device so they don't get tired. You can send them floaties, boogie boards. I know somebody who's alive because strangers on the beach dumped out their cooler, slammed the lid on top, and sent that out as a flotation device. They held onto the cooler for about an hour, and the Coast Guard found them 3 miles up the beach, but luckily they were just a little bit soggy and they were still alive. So now you know how to be safe and swim in the ocean. Today the rip current risk is high, but even when it's low, they can still form. We also don't know where they're going to form. We only know sort of the conditions that cause them, like tornadoes. Now that we're past all the fun stuff here, thank you for the demonstration. I appreciate it.
A hurricane is this, swirling of water.
You're right. Hopefully you're not around when another one comes. So, somebody's like that too. But,
That is too loud.
does this look familiar to you? Because you rode on this road all the way here. This is Highway 12, or also our wonderful island, which we are standing on right now. You had to get on this road to come here, whether you came south or north. Basically, our wonderful dunes are a migrating ship of sand, or an island, that is being pushed westward constantly. I also have this wonderful map, put it in a bigger scheme for you. So you and I are all the way down here, and we're in the middle of some beautiful water. Now I'm guessing all of you are here on vacation. I'm just gonna ask you, basically sum up in one word why you picked this location. I chose to come work here because I like the nature and the tranquility and peace being on an island. Do we have any more examples of why the Outer Banks? New experience. I love that. have another why. Did you say something?
Why you are here? Why you came here? You have anything to tell?
Because of beach camping on another island.
So fun. All right. New experience. Fun. I came for peace. A lot of people are coming for a lot more of other reasons. Mainly good, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, out here, and though we're having fun right now, out in the water are some terrible dangers. They're underwater islands called shoals, and they can shift pretty quickly. They extend out into the ocean about 18 miles, and they're responsible for all of the shipwrecks off of our beaches. We have over 2,000 known shipwrecks, and that's why we're called the graveyard of the Atlantic.
Wow.
Despite these dangers, though, everybody keeps coming through here because it's an important trade route. Either they can get past us to go north or south to get goods and money, or they need to come into some of our inlets to trade with North Carolina specifically. It's been an important trade route since the 1600s, and these deadly dunes have also been a great tool to some other people. They came down here for not so peaceful reasons. In the 1600s, we had pirates like Blackbeard. In the 1800s,
I
we
know
had
Blackbeard.
very good,
He used to have a twin on the island of Aquacoke.
very good,
That's where our campground was.
very nice.
Thank you.
In the 1800s, we have Union and Confederate Civil War soldiers. And then in 1900s, we have the World War soldiers, specifically German Navy men. To utilize these dangerous dunes and horrible shoals, they had to have some ships, which some of us are probably familiar with, the classic sailboats of the 1600s. In the 1800s, we had some of the first submarines and also iron or metal ships. Then in the 1900s, we had huge merchant tankers that could basically feed cities, and also more advanced submarines called U-boats. If we're going in order and starting with the pirates of the 1600s, what you're thinking of is probably the classic Blackbeard, who was pretty scary and deadly. He'd set his beard on fire to scare his enemies, and as you're used to, he probably jumped on the ships, slicing with his swords and drawing blood. But all the way up here, more north, our pirates were a little bit more lazy. I swear there's a horse in this photograph, but the white light right here is a lantern hanging from the horse's neck. You see, those dangerous shoals out in the water were useful to the pirates here. They would walk the horse up and down the beach, and the natural gait of the horse would cause the lantern to bob up and down, much like a ship's light out in sea. This would actually lure ships into the shoals, the opposite of what our lighthouse would be doing, as they think it's another ship safely navigating and not getting any wrecks. This would cause them to get landlocked on a shoal, and the massive waves out there would either break the ship apart or fill it with water. While that was happening, the pirates would hop in their little tiny boat, row out there, hold the men at gunpoint, and steal all of their cargo, leaving them out in the ocean to deal with it for themselves. Cargo is a bunch of food, clothes, lots of items you probably go and get to the store. It might seem glamorous and even tempting, especially if you have a 9-to-5 job. However, their living quarters weren't too fancy. This is a replica of what we think they'd be looking like. They would build their homes out of mainly driftwood, and they would be best friends with fleas, ticks, lice, and mosquitoes specifically. It would be a long time, too, before they could take another ship on and steal their cargo, so their spoils would literally spoil. They'd be eating rotten meat and soggy bread. On top of all of it, it was extremely lonely and remote, as getting out to these dangerous islands was highly difficult. Jumping forward a couple hundred years, we're now in the brink of the Civil War. Bloodshed is tearing across the country, and the Outer Banks aren't spared. We had our first lighthouse built here. It was built out of sandstone, and to the Union soldiers, though. Bringing back out this map, the Confederates had taken all of the Outer Banks. This was important to controlling North Carolina ports to make sure they could keep getting goods and also have military reign of the area. However, they left Hatteras unmanned as they thought it was too dangerous to worry about. The Union soldiers came all the way down and took base here, thinking it would be super easy to take these banks. They marched north all the way to Roanoke Island and quickly had to turn tail and run back as they were met with an army twice their size. It was also the middle of July, so as they ran on the burning hot sands under that yellow sun, they had to strip off their clothes. They claimed it felt like their leather boots were melting and their cotton jackets or wool jackets were dripping with their own sweat. So they were literally running naked and afraid. The same night, after a marathon, literally, they slept on Hatteras' cool stone floors. But luck turned in their favor. From the darkness emerged a 16-year-old boy. He had heard of their arrival here and escaped from slavery on Roanoke Island. He was in a leaky skiff, rowed about 30 miles down here, and told the Union soldiers he knew exactly how to take Roanoke by storm. That same night, he led them in a back door to the island, and just like that, they owned the banks. All the Confederate soldiers and the sympathizers packed their bags and went mainland. After that, the war was no longer touching the Outer Banks. It was actually so peaceful out here, it was boring. During that peaceful time, living as a soldier wasn't actually too bad. They had their tents set up on the beach here, and though it was pretty peaceful, they claimed there was never a morning without gritty coffee. Couldn't avoid the sand. During those 7 years, some people who had never tasted freedom before actually came out here to find peace. Instead of going all the way north to get emancipated, you could come to one of the first freedmen's colony on Roanoke Island. When you arrived, you could get a job, a house, and your children could also get educated. For those 7 years, men enjoyed being fishermen, and women were able to actually farm on the island. After the war, though, and peace took us by storm, the Confederate sympathizers came back, and they wanted their land back. So these people had to find somewhere else to live. But at least they had a kickstart to peace.
What is this lighthouse made of?
This lighthouse is made of brick, and I can answer any question you have when I'm finished with this lovely program.
Okay.
Got it?
After she's finished, we'll ask all the questions.
Jumping forward another 100 years, we're now in the brink of World War I. It also applies to World War II as well, as those German U-boats just didn't get enough in the First World War. After Pearl Harbor specifically, the German U-boat officer there in Germany decided he wanted the East Coast to be comparable to Pearl Harbor with his U-boat army. So he would send his submarines from France ports. It would take about 6 weeks to travel here, and they could only spend a week off of our coast before they'd have to head back to get more gasoline. They had extreme victory, however, as nobody ever really attempted to sink the submarines. In World War II alone, they sunk over 80 ships and 500 separate men lost their lives. They were targeting British merchant ships, hoping to starve the island and overtake us in the war. Our lovely lighthouse behind me here also became a demon instead of a savior, warning people of the dangerous shoals. This picture here is a ship silhouetted behind by a sunset. The German U-boats would be seeing something similar at the dead of night when the lighthouse beam would go behind a ship. Instead of having the covered shroud of darkness, the lighthouse would give it away and they could blow it up in a heartbeat. Many locals actually claim there was never a night without the ocean out here on fire, and the boats were so close to us that they could tap into our local radio stations or private receivers. Some locals were even mocked, as the Germans said they enjoyed our American jazz music. The explosions would also be so close that their home windows would be blown in from the shock of the sound, and locals ended up having to go in a total blackout, though the tourism was a little bit hard. There's a casino that locals tried so hard to shut down during the war. There was one ship that was sunk that sticks out in our history specifically. It was World War II during a nor'eastern storm in the dead of winter. A German U-boat blew it up, and the local life-saving stations were informed not to rescue a single soul. As the water was so cold, they would freeze the moment they stepped in it. The Chickamauga life-saving station said, that's hogwash. So they pulled out their wooden boats because they were men of steel, and they went out there. They saved about 3 times as many men were on their team, and of course, they're proud of it to this day. They're our only open and functioning life-saving station. If you go on Thursdays, they might even give you a live demonstration and rescue you from the crowd. Though the Germans had extreme victory out here on our coast during both World Wars, actually only 2 U-boats in total were sunk, living as a German soldier would not be too glamorous. Kind of a repeat of our pirate friends. You would be cramped in a metal tube for several months. There was no shower. If you were cleaning, it was with a rag. You would cuddle up at night with 1 or 2 of your buddies because you had to share a bunk. Or if you didn't have one, you'd just curl up on one of their precious torpedoes as a bed. When coming over from France, if they had to evade an enemy ship, they would just dive deep into the ocean. Sounds simple enough, but the ocean water is pretty cold compared to the warm bodies inside. So that cold outside would mix with the warm interior, causing water to form on the top and rain down on them. This would spoil all their food, and they'd be enjoying moldy, soggy bread for several weeks. At the end of it all, we're all here for some fun, some vacation. But as we walk the literal sands of time on our ancient beaches, we are walking on sand that has seen many horrors. So as you enjoy the sun and the fun, remember everything that brought you here to the safety we can enjoy today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll stick around and answer any questions.
You have any questions?
At all.
Yes, what's your question?
What are the stones back there?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So this lighthouse was moved about 23 years ago. You see how there's like no trees? They drove it across the ship, and they actually left those stones behind because they shipped it off. They didn't want to lose the stones though because they were left on the beach. So we picked them up, and now every lighthouse keeper that has ever served the lighthouse has his name and start of date etched on the ship.
Let me see that.
You have any question?
Yeah.